All right, let me tell you this the way it actually feels when you sit with it for a moment. No headlines, no shouting, just you and me unpacking something quietly uncomfortable. You know how some people walk into a room and the temperature changes? Not because they said anything, not because they did anything, it just shifts. That's always been the strained gravity around Meghan. People like Andrew Morton and Tom Bauer have said it themselves. Trying to pin down who she really was before meeting Prince Harry is like trying to grab smoke. Every time you think you've got a shape, it slips, reforms, becomes something else. And honestly, reinvention isn't a crime. Most of us do it. We change cities, careers, accents, even personalities to survive. But here's the thing no one said out loud 20 years ago. A working royal marrying an actress? That wasn't just unlikely, it was unthinkable. Not because acting isn't respectable, but because the royal family has always treated performance as something beneath the crown. Ironically, that's what makes all of this feel so tense. Every time the royal noise dies down, just when you think the Wi-Fi is finally off, her name reconnects itself. This week was no different. Only this time, the angle wasn't performative. It wasn't strategic. It felt personal. Because the story didn't come from her voice, her documentary, her carefully framed truth. It came from someone the palace actually listens to. Andrew Lownie wasn't even writing about her. That's the part people keep missing. He was focused on Prince Andrew, a man whose name has become a walking warning label inside royal history. Lownie's book, The Rise and Fall of the House of York, wasn't gossip bait. It was cold, archival, methodical. Letters, dates, proximity, networks, power. And somewhere in that orbit, her name appeared. Not accused, not blamed, just a present. In today's internet, presence is enough. Once her name touched that ecosystem, nuance died instantly. Social media didn't ask why it was there. It asked how fast can we turn this into a theory. And suddenly the story wasn't about Andrew's implosion, it was about her fury. Statements flew. Sources whispered. PR engines rev like a car stuck in neutral. The irony is painful. Someone who has shared so much, so publicly, suddenly needed privacy more than ever, because this wasn't her narrative. It wasn't polished. It wasn't framed. It wasn't safe. And that's what makes it different. Lownie wasn't mapping guilt. He was mapping proximity. Who crossed paths with whom? Who existed in the same rooms? Who benefited from silence? But the internet doesn't reward restraint. It rewards fire. So theories exploded. Rumors multiplied, and a name became digital dynamite simply by sitting too close to the blast radius. Then came the Toronto story, the one everyone loved because it sounds cinematic. Back in 2013, filming suits, lifestyle blogs, inspirational quotes, a version of herself that felt aspirational but still unfinished. Somewhere along the way, the internet decided she must have crossed paths with Prince Andrew in Canada. No photo, no receipt. Not even a bad angle. Just imagine doing what it does best when it smells royal chaos. Silence followed. And silence, in this world, is never neutral. Every time she doesn't respond, the volume doubles. It's almost unfair. She doesn't need to move. The narrative moves for her. The drama finds her like it's on autopilot. And when you trace it forward from Toronto to New York, you start to see why people argue about intention. New York wasn't accidental. Fashion weeks, rooftop dinners, charity galas, Soho House brunches, always adjacent to power, always one introduction away from something bigger. Some called it charm, others called it calculation. The truth probably sits somewhere uncomfortably in between. She understood rooms, she understood angles, and she understood that proximity, in elite spaces, is a language of its own. That's why this moment stings. Not because anything has been proven, not because a scandal landed cleanly, but because it exposed something fragile, the idea that reinvention can protect you forever. When someone else controls a story, when your name appears where you didn't place it, all the careful layers start to shake. This isn't about guilt. It never really was. It's about perception, about how power networks overlap, about how certain names resurface when systems are examined too closely. And about what happens when a woman who built her own narrative realizes, just for a second, that she's no longer holding the pen. She was aiming, You could almost see it in the way she moved, the way she smiled, like someone already practicing a royal wave long before the cameras ever crowned her. And maybe she was, because within just a few short years, rooftop parties would be replaced by Buckingham Palace gates. A glow-up so precise it felt planned. But New York never forgets. The same people who watched her climb are now the ones quietly spilling the tea. And when they talk about how she moved from the Soho House crowd to palace-level access, one name keeps surfacing again and again. Because behind every move, there's always a connector. Every royal drama has that one side character. The person who somehow knows everyone, who's always at the right table, the right after-party, the right photo op. For her, that person was Marcus Anderson, the global membership ambassador for Soho House. Deeply connected, highly influential, and always close. Marcus wasn't just a friend. He was a key, a velvet rope whisperer, someone who could make introductions happen before you even finish your drink. And she knew exactly how to use that access. Suddenly, doors that once felt bolted shut were swinging wide open. Charity galas, private brunches, London events where titles mattered more than talent. Marcus opened the door, and she walked through it effortlessly. People called it friendship. Critics called it strategy in stilettos. Either way, it worked. While the world thought she was just another actress posting inspirational quotes, she was quietly building a rollout, one curated appearance at a time. And Marcus, he was always there, arm in arm, laughing too loudly, whispering too closely. If she was a headline, he was a fine print no one read until it was too late. And then came Jamaica, sun blazing, cocktails flowing, a wedding that was supposed to be low-key, friends only. But the moment she arrived, the energy shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't about the bride. It was about her. Coordinated outfits, perfect angles. Cameras found her like she was wearing a tracking device. Some guests said she looked less like a plus one and more like someone rehearsing for a different hour altogether. And then the whispers started. That certain royal names might have been there, including Prince Andrew. No proof, no photos, just enough rumor to send the internet into a frenzy. The palace stayed silent. But once again, her name was trending. Not for fashion, not for love, but for proximity. Drama follows her like a shadow. Fast forward to 2021. The world is on fire, and somehow her name is still everywhere. This time, it's courtroom gossip. Rumors that she might be pulled into the legal storm surrounding Prince Andrew. Twitter turned into a royal courtroom overnight. Memes, predictions, people waiting for the performance of a lifetime. And then nothing. No subpoena, no testimony, not even a blurry Zoom screenshot. Just smoke, mirrors, and silence. And silence, in this world, is fuel. The less she said, the louder the noise became. 1 minute she's almost exposed. The next she's pivoting back to wellness, mindfulness, and reinvention. She pivots faster than most politicians in election season. Authors like Tom Bauer later wrote about how tense that Jamaica trip really was. How Prince Harry reportedly reacted violently to paparazzi trying to capture that moment. Because even then, the attention felt dangerous. So after all the headlines, all the chaos, what's the truth? Probably that she's sitting somewhere in California, scrolling through the noise, fully aware the internet still can't quit her. Because whether people admit it or not, attention pays better than approval. She's mastered controlled chaos. When the world forgets her, something always appears. A project, a podcast, a carefully timed reflection on healing. She doesn't fight the rumors anymore. She survives them, thrives in them. Controversy has become currency, not grace. Not humility, just pure determination and main character energy. Maybe that's her real crown. Not the tiara left behind, but the one built from headlines, hashtags, and Hollywood lighting. Because with her, the drama never ends. It just refreshes every 24 hours. And tomorrow, you already know she'll trend again. Let me say this slowly, because the moment you rush it, you miss why it makes people uncomfortable. Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew are two names you never expect to hear in the same breath. Different generations, different reputations, different stories. And yet, here we are, because sometimes the most unsettling stories don't start with accusations. They start with overlap. This one didn't come from a TikTok thread or a gossip blog. It came from Andrew Lownie, a man who has spent years digging through royal archives, court records, and private correspondence while most people were busy scrolling headlines. He's not flashy. He's not emotional. He's methodical. And that's what makes people nervous. When someone like him drops details quietly, without drama, it tends to land harder. What has been trying to understand isn't a scandal. It's proximity. How certain people keep appearing in the same rooms, the same cities, the same social circles, long before anyone was supposed to notice. Take Toronto, September 2013. At the time, Meghan was living there, filming Suits, still very much an actress trying to level up. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew was also reportedly in the city that same month. No press frenzy, no official overlap, just timing and geography. Allegedly staying only a few blocks away. 4 blocks. Not proof of anything, but close enough to make historians pause. Because when something that small stays buried for years, you have to ask why. Toronto, though, is just a warm-up. New York is where the pattern gets harder to ignore. Meghan was there constantly. Fashion events, private dinners, charity nights. And moving through those same spaces were Princess Anne and Princess Beatrice, Prince Andrew's daughters. Same circles, same friends, same faces popping up in different Instagram photos, taken years apart, but somehow always connected. Hairstylists, party hosts, mutual acquaintances. Nothing dramatic on its own. But stacked together, it starts to feel less random. And then there's a name that keeps tying it all together. Marcus Anderson. If you've ever wondered how people move between worlds that are supposedly closed, this is usually how. Marcus wasn't just Meghan's friend. He was her constant, her plus one, her shadow, and he wasn't just anyone. He was a senior figure at Soho House, a place that isn't really a club so much as a gatekeeping system. Privacy, influence, access, the kind of place where introductions matter more than resumes. Marcus was deeply trusted by the York Circle. He knew Eugenie long before Meghan entered the picture. And when Meghan needed a bridge into British high society, that bridge was already built. Doors don't just open in those worlds. Someone opens them for you. Soho House itself sits at the center of this web, owned by Ron Burkle, a billionaire whose name has floated around some very powerful, very controversial circles over the years. Politics, global elites, old money, new influence. There are long-standing reports of Burkle's proximity to figures later linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Again, not proof of wrongdoing by association, but history has taught us that elite networks tend to protect themselves quietly. Then comes Jamaica. March 2017. A destination wedding for one of Prince Harry's longtime friends. Supposed to be relaxed, private, and yet, somehow, it became another pressure point. Meghan was there. Princess Eugenie was there. And Sarah Ferguson was there too. Years later, Fergie would publicly insist she'd never met Meghan until the royal wedding. Never crossed paths. Not once. Except the photos exist. Wedding photos showing Fergie and Eugenie at the event. The bride and groom confirmed who attended. And Meghan was present as well, reportedly flown in on a private jet linked to Burkle, while Harry flew commercial from the UK. That detail alone raised eyebrows in royal circles. Not because it's illegal, but because it breaks the expected hierarchy. And when stories don't line up, historians don't assume coincidence. They assume damage control. Why deny a meeting that seems so ordinary, unless the meeting itself wasn't? And when you trace all these threads back, they lead to the same place. Soho House. The introductions. The discretion. The unspoken rule that what happens inside doesn't get discussed outside. Marcus Anderson's rise inside that organization was fast, unusually fast. The founder, Nick Jones, even named a wine label after him. That's not something you do for a random employee. That's something you do for someone central to the operation. Marcus stayed by Meghan's side through everything. The engagement, the wedding, the fallout, the move to America. Always there, never speaking, always present. And Soho House remained a quiet backdrop, the place where worlds overlap without leaving fingerprints. Even Burkle's connections stretched further. He was close to Bill Clinton, advising him, traveling with him, moving in the same elite spaces that later became subject of intense scrutiny. Again, none of this proves guilt, but it does establish something far more uncomfortable. Access. This story isn't about declaring conclusions. It's about understanding how power actually moves, how introductions matter more than credentials, how silence is often more valuable than denial, and how, in elite networks, the truth doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under good manners, private planes, and very select